Hey y'all, it's Laura, and here's day 20. We're getting so close to finishing the album. I'm super excited about that. So ready to be done with this project and have a finished project flip through. What do we have here? Oh, okay. Very excited by this, and let me tell you why. I ran out of white embroidery thread. And I love to stitch on my layouts. So I'm very excited that I got some embroidery thread. I got a prompt. We've got 2 3x4 cards. This one says, "The world changes when it snows." The back has a little pattern here, and then "snow much fun." And then a little pattern here. Now I'll probably use these sides because we don't get snow here very much, and we definitely didn't get any in December. So let's get started with day 20. Okay, so let's get started with day 20, and I have these 2 really cute photos. One is of me and my hot chocolate. The other is of my older 3 kids and their hot chocolates piled high with whipped cream, because that is the best way to enjoy hot chocolate, is it not? And I'm not going to use what was in my advent calendar for today. I decided to use this cut file, which came from a previous advent calendar day, instead. So I am still using the advent calendar, just not this particular one. I am finding here near the end I want to use up some of the larger pieces that have come in this calendar, and I'm not as worried about some of the smaller ones. Those will get used up later, or they will go into my Christmas stash, which I will dig out for next year's December daily. So I am backing this little cut file, and I need to make more of these smaller cut files because they're kind of a nice little addition to a page without being overly dominant on a page. So I think I'll try that a little bit more to make them smaller and just kind of add them around my photos as accents instead of the major design focal point. So I'm going to back them on several different pieces of paper. I'm mostly going to stick to the reds, the blacks, and grays. And that is fairly neutral. I did have a little bit of pink in there, but just keeping it fairly neutral so that I can embellish with pretty much whatever I want to. I do know that I have a couple of little cups of hot chocolate that are piled high with whipped cream in sticker form. And I definitely want to use those, and they are very, very bold. So I want to make sure that I'm keeping the background and everything else but my photos very, very low key. So here's the finished cut file, all filled in with different papers, and I'm going to be using this beautiful green cardstock from the Felicity Jane side of my kit. And I actually ended up using almost everything Felicity Jane on this page. That wasn't intentional, but the color scheme, it just worked better that way. And when I cut this paper down, it was kind of what was left of this cardstock, and I thought it was already 6 by 8, and then I measured it and went, oh, it's a little short. So I just put a piece of vellum behind it, and that gives it a nice border and makes it the right size. So I'm just going to kind of curve these hearts around my photo because there's extra space on the top and the bottom of my picture, whereas on the kids' picture it's a little bit more crowded because there's 3 of them in the picture, so there really isn't a lot of room for this to curve around. So their photo will sit above the cut file. That's a good thing too anyway, because it's creating the idea of layering and it's creating levels. My photo will be on the bottom level, then the cut file will be in the middle level, and then their photo will be on the top level. Gives the appearance of depth on the page, even though I'm not using any dimensional adhesive at all. And the reason I'm doing that, normally I would use a little dimensional adhesive to create real levels, but I may have a very super chunky album already. And I need to be aware of that and try not to over chunkify the album. So I'm going to use up as much of these scraps as possible. One of the things that I'm thinking about is I'm nearing the end of this album, and I want to keep in mind that I don't like keeping scraps. I'm not a fan. So what I want to do is to preserve as many of the whole pieces that are left, whole pieces of paper that are left to put into my stash, because I don't want to put scraps in there. I will tell you though that when I get to the end of this project, I am planning on making a handful of Christmas cards for next year using up the scraps that I have left. I do know some people love to have like a scraps box or some sort of a drawer, and they just kind of tuck their scraps in there, but I do not find scraps inspiring, and I would much rather be working with whole pieces of paper, and having a couple of pieces of paper left from a collection is much more useful for me to use in a page kit than scraps would be. So that's just my thinking. Bringing in these enamel hearts, well, no, one of them is a heart, one of their enamel circles that came in the kit, and I really like these. I like these a lot. I think I want to try to make my own though, because it seems fairly straightforward. You would just take a punched circle and add glossy accents on top. I think that would be kind of cool. So I don't know that though. I've never tried it. So maybe we'll have a DIY embellishment video and do some experimentation and see what we can cover with glossy accents and make into some enamel shapes. So adding in my title, this is going to be kind of a grid format layout, and I've got my 2 photos, I've got my cut file, so we've got 3 elements, and then this 4th element is going to be my title, which is very long. Considering the space it's taking up, it's going to fill that space, and it's going to say hot cocoa for all, because that is what one of my kids was saying when we were drinking it. We don't normally drink a lot of hot cocoa the rest of the year. Obviously, it doesn't get that cold here in Mississippi. And so during December, I do let them have hot cocoa with whipped cream every once in a while. It's a lot of sugar, so we don't eat it often, drink it often, but we do have it every once in a while. We are not a Starbucks family. We do not go to Starbucks ever. And I don't drink coffee at all. So this is their little treat. Now here are those little hot cocoa cups, and I think they're super cute, but they are very bold red. So I'm going to get one of them on here, but the other 2 are just going to get tucked back into the kit. I will pull off that one that I'm playing with at the moment because it just doesn't fit. There's too much going on in the page, and I just don't make it work. Now my number 20 for today is with these gold Felicity Jane alphas, and it's even though it's a bright gold glitter, it kind of fades into the background a little bit, which is not a bad thing necessarily, but I like that I've used such a variety of numbers throughout this album. It's definitely been more interesting to me because it has a little bit of variety. And that has been fun. I'm definitely going to do that next year, is to just add different numbers. And add a couple of word phrases that say happy together, and then come in with just one of those puffy stars from my earlier advent calendar. And this is just about done. Let's move on to day 21. So for day 21, there's a big, rather heavy bag here, and I am super curious what's inside. So let's see what I've got to play with today. All right, let's see. Oh, feels like a lot of things. Oh, there's popcorn in here. No wonder it was so heavy. So popcorn, which is awesome because I love popcorn, and a prompt. This is really cool. This is a film strip. This is like one of those little machine things. I don't remember what they're called. They have a little viewfinder and you see the different pictures. So that's kind of cool. And then this is a printable version of some Christmas movies. Now I've already done a layout like this, so I don't think I'll end up using this, but that's a really cute idea to include in your advent calendar. So let's get started on day 21. For day 21, I have these 2 photos of my daughter Sophia playing with the tree, and I have a lot of journaling on this one. No journaling on day 20, a lot of journaling on day 21. I wanted to use this beautiful paper, even though it's a full piece, and in my head I'm going, Laura, I just said I'm trying to preserve the full pieces of paper, but this background was really nice. It's kind of a green crosshatch design, and it's very, very neutral, which is exactly what I wanted. So I decided to go ahead and use it. And because I'm using such a large piece of this paper, I'm okay. It's going to be a background, so I'm going to use up that paper. It's not a problem. And I wanted to document how Sophia has handled the decorating of the house. For her, it's very difficult to accept change. Sometimes she's fine with it, and sometimes she's not. In the case of the Christmas decorations this year, it was kind of a mixed reaction. She loves the tree, absolutely adores the tree, and I think that's mostly because of the lights. In the first photo on the left there, she is underneath of the tree looking up at the lights. She has done that almost every single year since she was about 2. And I have photos of her doing that, and so I thought maybe in a future layout what I may do is kind of an over the years kind of thing, a picture of her doing it at like 2 and 3 and 4 and now 5, and how that would be a kind of a cool layout to do, just kind of an over time kind of thing. Look, she still does it. She still loves to see the lights from the underside of the tree. She does rearrange the ornaments, which is what she was doing in the second photo, and that's completely fine. I don't mind her rearranging the ornaments as long as she doesn't run off with them, which does happen occasionally, but I really don't mind if she moves them around. That's not a big deal. I am making sure to tape underneath of where the photos are going to be because it does show through the vellum, and I don't really want to see the tape. Plus, double-sided tape over time does kind of have a little bit of a yellowing effect. It doesn't yellow completely, but it does have an off. It's not clear. That's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't dry clear, and it doesn't stay clear over time. So I do want to make sure that is covered up behind my photos. I'm going to go ahead and mat these 2 photos together with this beautiful candy cane stripe paper. And I think that just kind of that red really lifts them off of the page and draws your eye to the photos, which is always my intention. Now, I purposefully chose lighter background papers because these photos are rather dark and I want them to stand out. It is always my intention to have my photos pop off of the page, and I have a lot of ways that I make that happen, and this is one of them, is to make sure that the background is very light when the photos are dark, or the opposite. If the photos are very bright and very light, I will often do a darker background. That way the photos will pop up off the page. Now, because I have so much journaling, I have printed this from my Project Life app, as I have been doing throughout this album. If you want to see more about that, I do have a tutorial linked in this playlist. So definitely go check out my December Daily 2018 playlist, and you can find that tutorial as well as every other day of this album as well. Grab this giant acrylic star, which came from the Secret Not Secret side of my kit, and it is from Ali Edwards, I believe. And just grabbing more bits and pieces. I put a lot of wood veneer on this page. It occurred to me that I haven't really used a lot of wood veneer in this album, and I really want to. I love wood veneer, but I have a very bad habit of hoarding it because I love it. And so we're going to have a mix of the acrylic star, quite a bit of wood veneer, although most of the pieces are small. And then I'm going to bring in some of these little silver stars from the ephemera pack, and that is going to help create a bit of a juxtaposition here because we have wood veneer, we have acrylic, we have paper, and the silver stars are kind of, they're just silver. They're metallic. That's what it is. So those 3 items will keep it interesting if they're not all the same types of embellishments. I am putting a little tiny tree wood veneer at the beginning and the end of my journaling, which does kind of guide your eye. So now that everything is glued down off camera, and I'm going to go ahead and add my number 21, and then we'll throw in a little bit of Heidi Swapp Color Shine in gold because I don't mind mixing silver and gold. I just think it adds a nice little touch to make it feel finished. It felt like it needed just a little bit of splattering to finish off the page. And then this is complete. I hope you've enjoyed this December daily. We've got a few more videos to finish up before the end of the month. And until next time, bye!